Next, we have Professor Tahir Abbas, who is Professor of Criminology and Global Justice and Director of RISE, the Centre on Radicalisation, Inclusion and Social Equity at Aston University. He's had many senior roles, including the Royal United Services Institute. He has lectured at Istanbul University, the University of Birmingham, and he's done policy research for the Home Office and Ministry of Justice. He has many, many books and articles, and they cover a range of issues, including Islamophobia and radicalization, and he has advised the United Nations on counter-extremism and integration policy, and he will be presenting us with a slide today. So,
good morning. Thank you for that. Thank you, colleagues, for the opportunity to be with you here today and to talk about some of the very pertinent issues that are affecting us in terms of thinking about violence towards women, but also some of the issues that underpin it in terms of society and politics more generally. I have some slides, so my lovely assistant will, there you are, will guide me through it, and I will try to go through it with my phone as my tablet. So, thank you. I want to start in Birmingham, the city where I work. 1968. Yes, whoops. Thank you. Well done, Birmingham. In 1968, Enoch Powell stood up in that city and told the country it was mad to admit immigrants and prophesied rivers of blood. In May last year, our own, albeit now soon to be exiting, Prime Minister warned that Britain risked becoming an island of strangers. Two speeches, nearly 60 years apart, same anxiety, same grammar. The nation imagined as a body under threat and a racialized population cast as the danger. What sits underneath both of those speeches is something I want to name specifically this morning. It is the theft of religion. Because the story that runs from Powell to the present day is not really an argument about faith at all. Nobody in it is debating theology. What is happening is that religion is being taken, lifted out of the hands of the people who actually live it, and repurposed as a weapon in a contest about race, about masculinity, about political power. And it gets stolen twice over. On the one hand, Islam is stolen to become the most significant threat in the story, what scholars call a floating signifier of otherness, a word that has stopped meaning a faith and started meaning a danger. Muslims are not a race in any biological sense, but Muslim identity is racialized, treated as if it were a fixed, inherited bodily fact. Tariq Madood gave us the language for this decades ago. Alongside the racism of skin, there is a cultural racism aimed at perceived deviation from a secular Christian norm. On the other hand, the right-hand side of the slide, Britishness, the flag staged as a wholly Christian nation identity, a Christian national identity, is stolen to become the weapon. Now, a recent study of England's streets makes this vivid. From the middle of last year, an organised campaign known as Operation Raise the Colours began saturating residential England with St George's crosses and Union Jacks. And we find something significant. The flag is bipolar. That is at once the lawful emblem of the British state and an emblem available to be appropriated by the radical right. And it is engineered. This is not a spontaneous welling up of popular feeling. It is cable ties bought wholesale, lampposts targeted systematically, a charity reportedly spending £2,000 on flags in a single bankrupt council area. One flag raiser in this study wanted his flags to look professional, distinct from the scruffy EDL types. That is the whole machinery in a sentence. The content does not change, only the packaging. The far right laundered into respectable patriotism. We call it mainstreaming, and what the flags show us is that mainstreaming is made spatial. And it is not only the flag. At the most recent rallies, Christianity itself is becoming hoisted into service. Crosses raised, hymns sung, a faith conscripted as a marker of who belongs. Note what that tells us. The people doing the stealing are not defending any religion. They are emptying faith of its meaning and refilling it with race. The Christianity invoked on those streets will be unrecognizable to most of the Christians I know. So hold on to that. Religion is stolen twice. Islam as the threat, the flag as the weapon. Now, my job here now is to show you who pays for that theft. And this is the part I want you to leave with. Who is quietly refusing it? Next slide. Here is what another study, recent study comes into play. And it's a paper we published in Ethnic and Racial Studies, which you can download as open access. We started something that a colleague of mine, Nabil Khattab, established long ago, that Muslims face the largest employment penalties of any group in the British labour market. Their CVs rejected at higher rates, their degrees failing to convert into jobs. So we asked a simple question. What does that do to their faith in the institutions of the state? We analysed 20 years of survey data and we found what we call a credential reversal. Look at the chart. For the white British majority, the green bar, education does exactly what the meritocratic story promises. The more educated you are, the more you trust the system, because the system rewarded you and you now have a stake in it. A degree is a golden ticket into belonging. For British Muslims, the amber bar, that formula is violently inverted. The more educated a British Muslim becomes, the less they trust the institutions of the state. The degree does not buy belonging, it buys exposure. To the corporate recruiters, to the university administrators, the prevent duty embedded in your own campus, the managers who read your name and your face and your headscarf as a question mark. And notice the middle bar. We tested this, whether this was just a general minority effect. It is not. Hindu, Sikh, Caribbean, and other minority respondents, education works normally. Therefore, the penalty is specifically Muslim. The British state is perfectly capable of welcoming the educated Hindu or Caribbean professional. It is the Muslim specifically whose success triggers suspicion rather than reward. This is Tariq Madood's cultural racism proven in the data. We have a name for what this produces in people, and we call it alienated competence. These are not disengaged citizens. They understand the democratic system better than almost anyone, and they withdraw from it precisely because they understand it. It's not apathy. It's a rational reading of a system that surveils them under the language of diversity. Next slide. Now I want you to bring the women of this story into the center, because this is the whole conference. 3 numbers. On the left, audit studies find that up to 30% lower callback rates for CVs carrying Muslim identifying names emerge, despite identical qualifications. And it is Muslim women, particularly who are visibly observant, who wear the hijab, who carry the cruelest of those employment penalties. So you would expect them to be the most alienated of all. And here is the finding that stops me every time. The middle number, among UK-born Muslim women, faith in institutions does not collapse. It surges by a coefficient of plus 7.2. So this is the headline. This is the highest baseline headline here, which is indicative of trust, highest trust of any group in our data. Compare that to the right. UK-born Muslim men. The generational divide is real, but it is gendered. The despair is concentrated among the men. The women hold the line. And this resilience runs deep. When we statistically remove the discrimination that these women endure, when we imagine for a moment a Britain in which they face only the hostility of the white majority, their faith in the democratic system does not just hold up, it outstrips everyone else's. They are maintaining that faith despite hostile environment, not because they have been spared by it. And we have a name for this too. We call it strategically engaged realism. These women stand at the exact intersection of religious, racial, and gendered hostility, the worst treated in the labour market. But they refuse to abandon their democratic claim to a state that threatens them with suspicion. They're not naive. They are the realists. They are the anchors of civic faith inside their own communities, using the very system that excludes them to dismantle the barriers in front of them. Which then brings me to the next slide, which is the core of why we are in this room: masculinity. The contemporary far right does not present itself as a project of hatred. It presents itself as a project of protection, that is protecting British women and girls. The manosphere feeds it. Poppy Robinson tells thousands of folks at a London rally to prepare for a battle of Britain. And the enemy is always somewhere in the frame, a racialized man coming for our women. But here is the inversion that our street-level research opens up. The women who experience the most acute bodily fear in response to all this flag saturation are precisely the women that these movements mark as targets. The quotation here from one of our participants, a young woman, Noor, described changing her clothes before entering a heavily flagged area. She won't take off her hijab, but she'll swap a black abaya for a pink maxi skirt. In her words, just so I look less Muslim, even though I know I'm still going to look Muslim. So this is the protection paradox. The rhetoric of protecting women operates by manufacturing fear in another set of women. And as Karen Gentry argues, you cannot separate misogynist violence from racist violence. They are the same sorting machine, despite deciding which women are protectable and which are the threat. And notice how gendered the whole apparatus is on both sides. In our street study, the men articulate fear in the abstract. They worry about election results, about the direction of the country. The women carry it in their bodies, in their routines, in the home, in the safety alarms handed out at the mosque. Noor, who works at a Birmingham boys' school, says that they now deal with a far-right incident, a Nazi salute, racist abuse, almost every single week. Religion gets stolen through masculinity, repackaged as a story of men, of nation, and of the defense of honor. So let me end on the line at the bottom of this slide. When you hear that Muslims are failing to integrate, reach for the inversion. British Muslims, the overwhelming majority born and educated here, have met every condition asked of them, the qualifications, the civic engagement, and the faith in the system. The philosopher Jacques Derrida reminds us that genuine hospitality means welcoming the other without demanding endless proof of their worthiness. That British Muslims' credentials trigger scrutiny rather than trust does not reveal their failure to integrate. It reveals our institutions' failure to integrate them. Religion gets stolen when faith is turned into a pawn in someone else's contest about race and power. Our task, yours, in this coalition, is to give it back. Treat the language of protecting women with the skepticism it has earned, and to recognize that the women being marked as the threat are in fact the ones still holding the democratic promise open for the rest of us. And there is a practical demand in this for everyone in this room, whichever community you serve. When a woman of faith walks into your service after domestic abuse, so-called honor-based abuse, she arrives carrying the same theft that I have described. Her religion has been defined for her from the outside by a man who told her what it demanded of her, and by a sector that too often took his word for it. But the harm was never the faith. It was his interpretation of it, his account of what she should do, dressed up as gods. Faith literacy is the discipline of telling the two apart, of hearing what her religion actually means to her, which is far more often a source of strength, of dignity, of even a quietly feminist claim to her own worth, rather than the cage it has been made to look like. Mistake the interpretation for the faith, and we finish the abuser's work for him. We did well, and we resourced the resilience that, as the data shows, is already there. Thank you.